Mr. Sousa, you've been around for a long time as well, and it pains me to have to repeat this because it almost feels just like you're doing this on purpose, and I'm sure that is not your intent, Mr. Sousa.
Wow.
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. So Cypher and I tried to record an episode about Conservative Premiers Blaine Higgs and Danielle Smith testifying at the OGO committee yesterday regarding the carbon tax. However, the Liberals were crying harder than Trudeau after looking at his recent polling numbers, which prevented the meeting from even starting for the first 20 minutes. However, the star of this episode is Conservative Chair Kelly McCauley, who wasn't tolerating their Liberal antics.
Let's take a look.
Call this meeting to order. We're here to discuss the estimates. Premier Higgs, the floor is yours for 5 minutes. Go ahead, sir.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Before we start, I'd just like to have, before you raise a point of order, I'm not here for, controversial debate. I would just like the opportunity
point of order,
to make a comment about thinking bigger in Canada and how we can meet the climate change objectives, and we can be a major player here in New Brunswick.
We will provide time for
Sorry,
that.
What's your point of order? Sorry, Premier Higgs. What's your point of order?
Oh, come on! What the hell? How do you call a point of order when nothing's even been said yet?
Well, because he's a Conservative premier, that's how.
I guess.
Can't have them saying anything, right? They might say the truth. Oh, no.
Can't allow that to happen.
Mr. Chair, I'm looking forward to the testimony of both premiers today and getting an explanation from both of them why they're both raising taxes and the cost of heating and energy.
What's your point of order?
This is not a point of order. 12%. So I'm really interested to hear why they're raising the cost of living for their residents.
What's your point of order, Mr. Kuzmirchuk?
My concern, Mr. Chair, is that we are right now meeting in contravention of Standing Order 108. And also in contravention of a motion that this committee has passed yesterday that prohibits you, Chair, from calling meetings and witnesses unilaterally without consultation and consent from committee. And I would ask the clerk to provide some comment and direction on it, because this is now the third meeting this week that we've had scheduled without any consultation of committee, without any instruction from committee. This is the third meeting that is being held in a row during a constituency week, which is a sacred week that is focused on constituents. I know our Conservative colleagues couldn't give two hoots about our constituents, but we do.
Sacred week?
Well, it is an important week.
It's an important week.
I won't deny that. I don't know about sacred, but I mean, it's not like you're traveling to Ottawa to sit in meetings because Kuzmirchuk is obviously off-site.
Right. And this just goes to what we said before, that the Liberals are getting really antsy because the Conservatives keep dragging them to meetings during constituency week, so it prevents the Liberals from actually drumming up support.
Well, and the other thing, it's not even really at the Conservatives or even the chairs. Like, it's not when he wants it. It's when the witnesses are available.
Right.
So if the witnesses are only available during constituency week, guess what, guys?
Yeah, it is what it is. You don't want to serve on committee, don't be a member of parliament.
Well, and that's the other thing. As the chairs have said in the past, if you're not available during constituency week, if you have an issue with being available during constituency week, then talk to your whip and they will sub you out.
Right. So stop complaining and do your job that you're paid $200,000 a year to do.
More than that.
Okay, Mr. Kuzmirchuk, can you just stick to the point of order, please, and not an editorial?
Absolutely, and I'm just about to wrap up here. And so whenever we have...
On a point of order, Mr. Chairperson, there's no interpretation because apparently there are multiple microphones open at the same time causing interference.
Is the interpretation on?
Sorry, interpretation is on. Mr.
Okay.
Savard Tremblay is just pointing out other people talking, but if you get to your point of order,
Yes.
please?
And I'm just about to conclude right here shortly, because I do want to get to the premiers as well. But meetings during constituency weeks are
That's
reserved
not a point of order. Mr. Kuzmirchuk, either get to the point of order or we
Yes.
will move back to Premier Higgs.
So my point, Mr. Chair, is I am asking the clerk to comment on whether this meeting is in contravention of both Standing Order 108 and also in contravention of the motion that this committee passed yesterday prohibiting the chair from calling meetings without consultation and consent of this committee. And what is particularly egregious, I have to say, is that, Mr. Chair, you called these so-called emergency meetings this week, 3 of them, and not one of the permanent Conservative members of this committee even bothered to show up.
Okay.
Because they they weren't able to show up. They called their whip and they were subbed out, just like you could have been. Like,
How is this a mystery to this guy?
I don't think it is. I think this is just an attempt at filibustering.
Belly aching?
Yeah, it's just it's whining. It's liberal whining that we've all come to see
To
over the
recognize,
course,
yeah.
over the last 8 years, and it's getting even more so because they see where this is going. And the fact that all of the premiers are starting to stand up and also point their fingers at the Liberal government, that's never a good sign, folks.
I will address your point of orders, Mr.
No one
Kuzmirchuk.
no one from the
Kuzmirchuk.
opposition leader's front bench bothered to show up to ask questions. That is egregious. We're here from the Liberal side, the NDP side, the Bloc side. We're here to do
Mr.
the
Kuzmirchuk,
work of
you've made your
Canadians.
point of order.
Where are the
I will
permanent-
rule
where are
on
the
your point
permanent
of order.
Conservative members of this committee. Where are the permanent members, Conservative
Chair.
members of this committee?
Point of order, Chair.
And why are they not here to do their work?
I will address your point of order. But Mr. Singh, on a point of order, then I'll address Mr. Kuzmirchuk's.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it.
Briefly, please.
So, as we just said, Kuzmirchuk is belly aching about the Conservatives not being there, like the permanent members of the committee not being there, because they probably asked to be swapped out for somebody else so that other Conservative members could sit in on their behalf. And number one, Kuzmirchuk isn't even there in Ottawa. He's probably in his riding. And Kelly McCauley, who I believe is from Alberta, is in Ottawa, and he's a Conservative. So, don't be giving us this business.
Yeah, don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it.
I appreciate that you made a ruling on this yesterday, I believe, as Mr. Kuzmirchuk once again is trying to silence another premier and not let them testify about the harmful impacts of a 23% increase on the carbon tax that's going to impact families worse.
You're the
Mr.
finance
Halan,
critic. You weren't even here yesterday.
Sorry, Mr. Kuzmirchuk. Please to respect the interpreters and for Mr. Savard Tromley, just one person at a time. It is clear, committee, and I'm going to read, committee meetings are convened by the chair, and it can be after a decision made by the committee or on the chair's own authority. And that's right from page 29 or 1095 of the Green Book. With respect to the motion yesterday, as I stated yesterday, my ruling was I believed it was.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Kuzmirchuk, let me finish, please.
Of the clerk.
I will stop.
I asked the question of the clerk,
You
and
do
I'd
not,
like to hear from the
Mr.
clerk.
Kuzmirchuk, you've been around for a long time. You know
And I
very
know that
well
I
the
am asking
rules
the
that
clerk, not you, sir.
you do not address questions to the clerk. You know that very well, and it appears you're just being disruptive at this time. But I appreciate what you're saying, but the rules clearly allow the chair to call meetings on his own authority, which I did. With respect to the motion yesterday, as I ruled yesterday, my belief is that is for meetings going forward. You cannot simply, I don't believe it could simply reach back in time and change what has already been booked. So that is what my ruling is.
So basically, what they did yesterday is they had a motion because the Liberals were not happy, and no doubt the NDP and the Bloc voted with them, that the chair just can't, book meetings on his own without consulting with the committee members. So okay, fine. So Macaulay said, sure, no problem. And Kazmierczuk is belly aching about today's meeting, and Kelly McConnell is basically saying, yeah, the motion yesterday stands, but this one was already booked, so suck it.
Well, I think Mr. McCauley was a little bit more polite than
It was
that.
far more polite than that. But, get over yourself. Do your job.
I'd like to hear the clerk's response about my chair's ability to call a meeting. I'm happy to refer to him, and he can repeat from page 1095 himself.
Point of order, Chair.
We're actually in a discussion. I'll get to you in a moment. On interpretation. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you stated on page 1095 of Procedure and Practice, it states under the section convening a meeting by the chair. Committee meetings are convened by the chair, acting either on a decision made by the committee or on the chair's own authority. Therefore, my advice to the chair would be that there's two mechanisms to plan a meeting. Either the committee can agree to a schedule and a specific time and plan for a meeting, or the chair has the discretion to plan meetings on his authority.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
I realized someone else had called a point of order, but I saw Mr. Souza's hand was up. Is it on a point of order, Mr. Souza? Or
It's on this point of order.
Okay, go ahead,
Yes,
sir.
it's on a point of order. I just want clarity again from the clerk. So we have an opportunity here that the chair has the right to call these meetings, I understand, but he also has the right and the need to abide by the members' consent.
Okay, we've
and
ruled on that already, Mr. Souza, so that's not a point of order. Thank you.
No.
There was someone else with a point of order. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I got a point of order.
Go ahead, Mr. Long.
Clarity on the rules.
Okay, I've advised, and the clerk has advised already, Mr. Souza. We'll
we're
be happy
asking the
to
clerk-
email it out to you as well if you are having concerns about following along with the conversation.
You need consent.
Oh, jeez. Well done, Macaulay. Yeah, if you're having a problem, we'll email you your TPS reports. Okay? Because it's not our fault that you're not following along. You don't understand the rules. This is going to be a tough one for Macaulay, no doubt.
Yeah, we're like 10 or 12 minutes into recording, and
We haven't gotten anywhere.
no,
The meeting hasn't started.
We've just listened to their bickering.
The meeting has not started.
God bless Kelly McCauley for putting up with it.
And good on him. He's doing a great job.
Go ahead, Mr. Long.
I'm asking you a question, Mr. Chair, and you're trying to now shut me down, and that's inappropriate. And again, it's the way you flagrantly operate independently without
Point of order.
consulting with the members.
order,
So my
point of
question,
order.
as a point of order, is to the clerk.
This is separate.
Okay,
Can
Mr.
the
Souza,
chair-
you've been around for a long time as well, and it pains me to have to repeat this because it almost feels just like you're doing this on purpose, and I'm sure that is not your intent, Mr. Souza.
Wow.
This is why we love Kelly McCauley.
He has the patience of a saint.
And the way he addresses this, he's being so polite, but underneath it, there's just daggers that are professionally skewering somebody. And that's the thing about when somebody, professionally tells somebody off. It's very elegant to listen to. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I really enjoy it. It sounds better than somebody just saying, hey, piss off. It's much more elegant.
And it's much more entertaining.
You cannot ask directions or questions of the clerk. They should be directed to the chair. So Mr.
Through you, Chair, to the
Kazmierczuk has
clerk.
already asked that about page 29, and I've ruled on it. And if you need for the clerk to repeat that to you, I will. But it appears you're doing this on purpose for either disruption of the committee or for some bizarre film clip. I'm not sure, but I'll have him repeat it for you if you wish.
Mr. Chair, that's not the intent here. My intent is to try to provide decorum in this committee to ensure that we operate collectively and cooperatively. Right now, unilateral decisions are being made by you, even yesterday's adjournment of the debate when we had a motion before the House. I'm asking the clerk through you to tell us if consent was required to do so.
I adjourned on a
Point of order, Clerk.
Okay, you can't point of order during a point of order or a point of order, a point of order. But I
Raising a point of
adjourned
order. Get in
on
the queue.
a disorder. I'll read the ruling. Disorder or misconduct in the committee may arise as a result of failure to abide by the rules, practices, respect the authority of the chair. Disorder and misconduct also include use of unparliamentary language, which we had yesterday, fail to yield the floor, which we had yesterday, persistent interruption. So that is directly from the Green Book.
There you go. So yesterday, the committee was such a disaster that Kelly shut it down. And, you know, what, the Liberals don't like that that the Conservatives adjourned the meeting before they were ready? Oh. What, you don't like it when it happens to you? What happened to starting meeting and then the Liberals immediately adjourn the meeting and there's nothing else anybody can do?
Yeah, with the support of the NDP, don't forget, because they need a majority vote.
Right, but when all of you are acting like idiots, it's such a violation.
I can have the clerk reaffirm what's in the Green Book for you if you wish, but that was why.
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Chair. Under the section Committee Questions and Procedure Privilege, as stated by the Chair, committee may arise as a result of the failure to abide by rules, respect the authority of the Chair. Disorder and conduct may include the use of unparliamentary language. I would cite also page 1099 in Chapter 20, stating that committee chair may adjourn the meeting if the Chair decides that a case of disorder or misconduct is so serious as to prevent the committee from continuing its work.
Thanks. I think it was Mr. Long, and then I have Mr. Nakvi.
Thank you.
Sorry,
thank
Mr.
you,
Long.
Chair. Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good morning. And I'm puzzled, Chair. This obviously is. I'm happy to be here.
What's your point of order, Mr. Long?
Well, Chair, I'm confused. Why is the Premier of New Brunswick here with respect to main estimates? Can you explain that? And also, Chair, I'm wondering if you're able to table any conversations or emails that led to the Premier being invited here for main estimates. Like, I've got questions on main estimates that I can certainly ask the Premier of New Brunswick. But,
Mr. Long, what is point of order, please?
I'm confused as to why the Premier of New Brunswick is invited here when we're supposed to be on main estimates. Can you explain that to me, Chair? Thank you.
Certainly. As was explained yesterday, we are on the main estimates. There is over $11 billion in spending related to the carbon tax, which is about a 66% increase from just 2 years ago, and I think about a 35% increase from last year. So it is discussion on items within the main estimates. Seven of the premiers. Mr. Long, I respected your time. I would ask you not to interrupt me. Allow me to continue, please. 7 of the 10 premiers wrote to the Liberal Finance Chair asking for a meeting to discuss this. He refused. So I thought it would be good for the Canadians who are represented by these 7 of the 10 premiers to be able to speak on the issue, and that is why.
Wow. So the 7 premiers who are opposing the carbon tax all wrote to ask the chair of the Finance Committee if they could attend, and no.
Nope. They were denied, but they were sent over to Ogo, I suppose.
Well, they weren't sent anywhere. So what it sounds like is Kelly McCauley heard that and said, all right, you guys won't have them? We will.
Oh, so they were invited to Ogo.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Because they wanted to come to the Finance Committee to actually discuss the impact of the carbon tax. On
the provincial finances or the finances
and their economies.
Of the people in the province. Yeah.
So, and so this is Kelly McCauley entertaining the 7 premiers, not all of which are Conservatives, might we add. So, here you go. Liberals, they're transparent, but they don't want to talk to anybody.
And they are invited to speak on the estimates. I can't help it if you're not clear on that, Mr. Long, but I have explained why.
You're telling me, Chair.
I'm going to Mr. Nakpi. Go ahead.
Chair, I have the floor right now. So, Chair, you're telling me that the Premier of New Brunswick is able to answer questions from us on the main estimates? Is that not why we're here, Chair?
Mr. Long, the premiers representing 70% of Canadians have been invited to speak. It's not for you to decide their relevance as a witness, just like you could not, question the relevance of perhaps a parliamentary budget officer being here yesterday. I have advised you why. We will now go to Mr. Nakvi. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm not trying to be disruptive. I'm just trying to understand the rules by which this committee and other committees, because there is an element of precedent setting that takes place when a particular committee acts in a particular way. And so I'm trying to understand under what rules are acting here today. I'm asking the question of you. If the clerk can answer that question, I'll sincerely appreciate it. I would also sincerely appreciate, Chair, that you don't point an answer to the clerk to read. I think that's not fair. The clerk is an expert in parliamentary procedure, and he should be able to answer the questions without you guiding him exactly what answer he should be reading. Having said that, I'm looking at the motion that this committee passed just yesterday, and I'll just quickly read this,
Mr. Chair,
which says...
Please, Mr. Nakvi, just get to your point of order.
I'm getting to my point. I am getting to the point of order.
What the Liberals are trying to do, trying to block Mr.
No,
Premier Higgs from testifying. Please just get to the point of order.
So with all due respect, that is not my intention.
Please get to the point of order.
Point of order. Point of order.
We already have someone at the floor, Mr. Kuzmierczak, and I've mentioned already in respect to Mr. Savard Tremblay and to the interpreters, ask people not talk over the floor. Mr. Nakvi.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. And I am speaking to my point of order because the motion that was adopted by this committee yesterday speaks to that exact point, which says that it expressed his disappointment in the chair for his disregard for the members and his duties as chair, and it stated that that when the committee undertakes to invite witnesses, that a witness list submission deadline be set by the chair with the explicit consent of the committee, B, witnesses be invited proportionally to each recognized party standing in the House, and C, no such witness be invited without instruction of the committee. And I'm wondering, Chair, first to you and then to the clerk, whether this motion is being respected. I have not seen any documentation that suggests to me that all these three things that were just adopted by this committee yesterday are being undertaken as it relates to witnesses today and moving forward. And I think I know you well, sir. You're a respectful member of Parliament, that you will not act in contravention of a motion of your own committee. So I just wanted some clarity as to what steps were followed to meet these conditions, and would like to also hear from the clerk as well without you pointing an answer to him. Thank you.
I was not pointing or directing, but I appreciate that incorrect perspective. The motion yesterday, I made very clear, I don't believe is retroactive. So the meeting had already been called, the notice had already been put up, witnesses already done. Nowhere in the notice did it say retroactive. And so that was that. The meeting was booked, the witness has been called, period. I'm not sure if the clerk wished, no, you wanted the clerk to weigh in on that. I'm not sure if he has an opinion, but please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you stated, I would leave it to the chair and the committee to interpret the motion and how it should be used moving forward. At this point, I would echo what the chair stated, that the notice was indeed published before this motion was adopted. That being said, based on the terms of the motion, I would leave it to the chair and the committee to decide how to interpret the mechanism and the way to move forward with the motion as it stands. At this point, I would not deem to interpret whether or not today's meeting applies to this motion. I leave it to the chair and the committee to decide how to move forward on that point.
This is the most I have heard from a clerk of a committee in any committee.
Well, and it makes you wonder why all four Liberal members of this committee are raising quote-unquote points of order, which they're not really points of order, but okay. But they're really trying to block Premier Higgs from saying anything. Why? Why are they so scared?
Because they are afraid of the facts and the truth of the carbon tax versus the propaganda that the Liberals keep pushing out, which is 8 out of 10 Canadians get more back, when we know that to be false.
Well, they don't want Canadians hearing it on Pearlview. They don't want Canadians like us broadcasting it.
Right? It's interesting. It's interesting how much they're doing this in Pearlview, because now they know.
We're watching you.
Yeah, they know. And they know a lot of Canadians are watching. We are watching.
And that's how it should be. This is our democracy.
Yeah. They work for us. And ladies and gentlemen, this is what they're doing for us, or rather not. So they've already wasted almost 20 minutes of Premier Higgs' time. And unfortunately, we're not going to get to it in this episode because we've had a lot of feedback that people would like short episodes. So,
so this was the intro to OGO.
Yeah, this is the intro to OGO yesterday. So we are going to be recording another episode of this same committee, so you actually get to see what happened. But this is important, and it's going to be frustrating to hear, I know, but it's important to know what exactly the Liberals are doing and trying to do to keep the truth away from Canadians when it comes to the carbon tax. Again, we talked about this the other day. Why would 7 premiers stand up? And again, not just Conservative premiers, you have NDP premiers, you have Liberal premiers and Conservative premiers. They're all standing up and saying the same thing. Do not increase the carbon tax on April 1st. Why do you think they're all doing that? Because their constituents are yelling at them.
Because Canadians are suffering and they're not getting a response at the federal level. I mean, those of you who have been writing your Conservative MPs, I'm sure you're getting a positive response. And we can see it that the Conservatives are trying to fight hard to scrap this carbon tax, or just at least, at the very least, stop the spike that's coming April 1st. And because the Conservatives are the opposition right now, and it's the Liberal and NDP coalition that's keeping this thing going, Canadians are being ignored.
Right. So that's the first episode, everybody. So I hope you made it through this far. It is important. And
even though we didn't get into the meat and potatoes of anything, it's important to see exactly how these Liberals are behaving, because they do not want the truth out.
And if you do want to write a letter, write one to Kelly McCauley and telling him what a great job as chair he's doing at the OGO committee, because he was
He's
playing
fantastic.
it cool through that whole thing. And I don't know if I could have been that cool. Just saying. I probably would have thrown my glasses across the room.